so I can give you all of me. All of me. 11 days and 11 nights, and I've been thinking about you constantly and all the time. Baby, I even grow down on my knees just to get to where you are and make you mine. I don't wanna rush it. I just want you to trust it. We'll be fine. Give it time. There's no pressure. I'll be waiting, and I'm channeling this energy so I can give you all of me. All of me. Spend a whole day, baby, I go a long way. Don't ever worry if you got me, 'cause you got me. All of the wrongs you've had, I wanna make it right. Just one chance, I won't fight it. If it doesn't fit, it's alright. It ain't my time. There's no pressure. I'll be waiting, and I'm channeling this energy so I can give you all of me.
This is ritual. For Africans on the plantation, maintaining the religion of their birth in the Americas simply was not the option it was for the Puritans of Plymouth Rock. Most spiritual practices among enslaved people were feared and forbidden by plantation owners, who looked to eradicate any sign of strength. So in secrecy, often under the cover of night, enslaved Africans used different spiritual tools from home that they adapted in order to survive an otherwise impossible situation. The religions they created had much in common, like spirit communication, which was practiced by all of them. But they were also unique to the places where they were created. Voodoo, they called it in Haiti, Candomblé in Brazil, and Santeria in Cuba. In North America, it was known as hoodoo. Hoodoo doctors gathered medicinal plants to make the traditional remedies that secured a community's physical survival, while other rituals attended their spiritual wounds and reminded them of a time before slavery. Green corn ceremony is a time to clear out any obstacles standing in the way of connection, a reminder that the individual cannot survive without the collective. Cleansing the soul of the community in order to greet the new crop is a sign of respect to the spirit in the growing corn. Today, the natural world has been thrown into chaos by our failure to respect the delicate balance of our ecosystems. It certainly seems like the modern world has a long way to go before our relationship with plants is once again defined by reciprocity. But as the green corn ceremony teaches us, if we take the time to ask forgiveness for the harm we have caused, we can earn the chance to begin again. Black sound like 400 years. Smell like Oprah. Impactful like Martin. Look like Cicely Tyson. Sing like Nina. Got a booty like Serena. But it feels
The History of the South's Forbidden Black Burials on PBS, featuring Tank Bell, Part 1.
Louisiana trumpet player Jeremy Thomas was 12 when he dug his first grave. While caring for his ancestors' cemetery, Jeremy's father taught him that a grave is more than just a grave. It's a site of memory and transition, a reminder that there is no escape from death. I've set out to explore the burial rites of Black Louisiana and what they reveal about a community's capacity for resistance. I'm Tariana Tank Bell, and this is Ritual. There are no older rituals than those devoted to caring for the dead, nor are there any which reveal more about the living. In Louisiana, Black people have been creating and protecting traditions that honor the dead for centuries. From the music of the black church to funeral processions, rituals form an intricate mosaic of human expression and cosmic connection. Enslaved communities secretly performed burials that incorporated African traditions like drumming and dancing. On plantations where gatherings of any kind were strictly outlawed, getting caught would almost certainly subject them to the overseer's whip. To take such risk on behalf of their loved ones became an act of resistance against the plantation. For Jeremy, traditions like playing music at funeral processions is a deep source of connection to his ancestral lineage. He also spends countless hours digging through state archives to piece together the lost and buried history of his enslaved ancestors. Fueled by sacred duty to honor the dead, Jeremy and his family carry the torch for a long line of black cemetery caretakers. Together, they maintain and protect the cemetery's grounds where their community is buried. Today, he's invited me to the Lutheran Cemetery so I can see where it all began.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you.
This is the Lutheran Cemetery. We're here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Yes.
In the top of a community that we call the South.
And what is your family's history with this cemetery?
Yeah, my dad actually started, he took the role as caretaker, right?
Wow.
But really, there's a long history with my family in this cemetery. My great-great-grandmother, Hannah, she joined the Benevolent Society in 1935.
Their main mission is to take care of the sick
Wow.
and bury the dead.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool to
Yeah,
know about.
this Benevolent Society, it actually started in 1858.
Benevolent societies were mutual aid organizations created to offer black Louisianians the social safety net they were denied by segregation law. With roots in West Africa, where fraternal organizations were an important part of the community structure, members of these societies pooled their resources to care for all those in need. Above all, belonging to a benevolent society meant that when the time came, they'd receive a proper burial, a guarantee for dignity in death. What's the traces of Africa that can be found in these traditions?
Oh, Jesus. Traces
Is that a
of
hard
Africa.
question?
That's a very hard question.
I can imagine.
Because so many things
Have changed.
were just legally, right, remove the African traditions.
Yes.
For example, Article 14 of the Code Noir states that if a slave dies and that slave is not baptized, then you are to bury that slave at night in a field somewhere near the spot where it died.
Laws like the French Code Noir controlled every aspect of life for enslaved people, including what religion they could practice and how they were buried. In cases of serious slave resistance, the Code Noir mandated gruesome punishments, such as branding with the fleur-de-lis, chopping off ears, and the death penalty. Despite the widespread and violent efforts of white supremacy, some
Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowances made for fair use for purpose such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statutes that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips in the balance of the favor of fair use.
Society meant that when the time came, they'd receive a proper burial, a guarantee for dignity in death. What's the traces of Africa that can be found in these traditions?
Oh, Jesus. Traces
Is that a
of
hard
Africa.
question?
That's a very hard question.
I can imagine.
Because so many things
Have changed.
were just legally, right, remove the African traditions.
For example, Article 14 of the Code Noir states that if a slave dies and that slave is not baptized, then you are to bury that slave at night in a field somewhere near the spot where it died.
Laws like the French Code Noir controlled every aspect of life for enslaved people, including what religion they could practice and how they were buried. In cases of serious slave resistance, the Code Noir mandated gruesome punishments, such as branding with the fleur-de-lis, chopping off ears, and the death penalty. Despite the widespread and violent efforts of white supremacy, some traces of African traditions prevailed. To ensure the deceased were properly put to rest, enslaved people would sing hymns, dance, drum, and march.
You know how the music, when it started parading to the burial ground, that's an African tradition.
I don't think that feels African.
Right.
That feels African. You know, I could just hear it and I can see it. You know, us bringing the body to its final resting place and singing our way there. I feel that in my heart.
Everybody's dancing. Everybody's tambourine playing.
I'm sorry, have you been to a New Orleans funeral before? It sounds like you've been to a New Orleans funeral.
Well, you know, we are further up the river. I've definitely been to New Orleans.
Okay, I'm about to say, because that's what it's like.
Yeah.
We truly celebrate
That's right.
the dead. Traces of African burial traditions can be seen in New Orleans' Second Lines, which has roots in the centuries-old Congo Square gatherings. The rhythms, the dancing, and the community solidarity are all expressions of African ancestral memory. Generations later, people like Jeremy find new ways to maintain their connection to their Louisiana ancestors.
I learned so much about my family by digging through these archives. The archives have also taught me a lot about the history of the people that owned and operated the state of Louisiana.
The history that we've lost, the things that we've forgotten, but we come to America and we make our own traditions and we make something new. And it's so cool to listen to the stories that your family has kept and just have kept alive. And we really appreciate you for that. Your entire family are gems to this land.
Right.
Thank
you.
you.
Gotta meet the rest of the family.
Oh yeah, who am I gonna meet?
It's gonna be mama, you're gonna be auntie.
Auntie?
You're gonna be cousin.
I wondered, after being denied burial rights for so long, how can uncovering our history empower us today? So I headed to meet Joy Banner in her cafe, located in the center of plantation country, a site which bore witness to profound suffering. Joy is a co-founder of the Descendants Project, which is dedicated to justice for enslaved people and their descendants. After all of that trauma within a community, how important is it for communities to bury the dead? What's at stake here?
What does it mean when we bury somebody? No, that is the opportunity to come together as a community, as a family, and send that person off in love. You know, that sense of healing that they gave each other after that person passed. It's important for us to remember that those moments, even though they were heavily restricted and heavily, regulated by enslaving families, it was still a moment where people got together, and that act of resistance was to remember and love that person.
How do you...
Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowances made for fair use, for purpose such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statutes that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips in the balance of the favor of fair use.
Do you know what's really going on here? And no, it's not a Mardi Gras parade. It's a jazz funeral. When someone in my community dies, we have a funeral where the hearse is accompanied by a brass band on a parade from a church to the cemetery. It starts off with playing somber music. The parade continues with a more upbeat tempo, and anyone who wants to jump in can join in what we call a second line. We dance as we march, sometimes waving handkerchiefs and parasols as we celebrate the life of the deceased. This ritual has strong ties to West African religions, in which music and dancing is meant to celebrate the life of the deceased and ensure their journey to the spirit world. However, enslaved people in the Americas were banned from performing sacred ritual, so it was done in secrecy. As enslaved people became emancipated in the late 19th century, these burial processions gained popularity and evolved to become a quintessential New Orleans ritual. These are Black masking Indians, also known as Mardi Gras Indians. If you're from New Orleans, I'm sure you're already knowing that. You can't miss their striking, vibrant suits marching down the street. But did you know Black masking Indians spend all year making their suit? Symbolic bead designs and feathers are all hand sewn to show off on Mardi Gras Day and Super Sunday, their ceremonious time to march and settle scores. Kill 'em dead with a needle and thread. That's what they say because it's all about the suits. The act of beading is a ritual in itself. From traditional to contemporary, realistic to abstract, each tribe has their own style of beading. You have styles with flat patches featuring heavy beadwork, the three-dimensional geometric designs, as well as suits inspired by African culture. And as younger generations take on this tradition, the styles continue to evolve.
Heavy on the love, heavy on your trust in me, heavy on communication, honesty, heavy on the talks, yeah, heavy on conversation, heavy on loving me, heavy on affection. I want that shit heavy. I want that shit heavy on me. I want that shit heavy. It's the pressure for me. What about intimacy? Heavy on the trust in me. What about where we left off? You just gon' log off and leave? Worry on no bullshit. Heavy on the moments. Heavy on the time that we spend. Heavy on forgiveness. I want that shit heavy. I want that shit heavy on me. I want that shit. It's the pressure for me. Pushing people off mountaintops, buildings at night, skyscrapers high, pushing people so they could fly.
This will be such a poignant time to tune in as we review each of the episodes in the series Ritual, brought to us by Tank Bell, very renowned Grammy nominated artist hailing from Louisiana. We appreciate her effort in giving us the knowledge that we need in reviewing all of the things that is beneficial to the culture. It is my pleasure and it's my honor to bring this series to you, as well as having discussions with hopefully you in regards to each episode. So stay tuned, as this series will be coming up very, very soon. Thanks for tuning in. See you soon. Stay blessed.
Ancestors, I call out to you in the far reaches of our ancestral abode in heaven. I call on you to remember and honor you. Blood, bone, spirit, legacy. Surround me with your light, your love, your power, as I prepare for my day, my daily walk in life. Please be my shield. And I pray, now that I am waking up, I give respect to the realm of the ancestors. Let all good things come to me. Inner spirit, give me life. I shall never die.